Not every dating strategy works in every city. And so let me explain that there's all these different types of cities that you could potentially live in, and there's all these different types of dating strategies you could use in your city. And not every city is going to be, and not every strategy is going to be effective in every city. So your types of cities are like your touristic dense cities, your Chicago, Miami, New York, these big popular cities where a lot of people come in and out and there's tons of foot traffic. Then you have smaller, more condensed cities that are less social. This could be like, I don't know, you're not capitals of states. Most capitals are going to be like New York, Miami. They're just smaller versions, right? So like Nashville is still a really densely populated touristic city. But I live in Memphis, Tennessee, for example. It is nothing like this. It is not very social. People don't walk around downtown. It's a much more dangerous city. Just going out and meeting people in the street and meeting tourists, there's not a lot of tourists. People don't come visit this city very often, is very unlikely. So it's a different type of city that's less dense, less heavily populated, and just overall less social. There's also less bars. There's less clubs. There's one club in the city. While there's many bars in the city, there's not that many bars that lean to a younger 20s crowd that's like really good for the dating pool. Then you have like college towns, which everyone is a certain age. Like the vast majority of people there are a certain age, and there's not that many people overall in the city. Your pool of dating is much smaller than it would be even in Memphis or especially in the bigger, denser cities. And then you just have like real towns, like towns of 1,000 to 10,000 people that are so small that you have one bar in the whole town. There's not a club anywhere nearby. If you want to go out and be social and build real social skills, you have to literally travel hours to a nearby big, dense, populated city. Now we'll talk about the types of strategies. There's cold approach, which involves day game and night game. So meeting people at bars and clubs for night game, or meeting people out in your day-to-day for day game. That could also be social circle, which is another form of strategy. And social circle is essentially just being in an environment where you see people regularly, and so you create a social group within that environment. And from that social group, you now have a little pool of dating potential. So this is making friends at a club. This is your school. This is work. This is the gym. This is hobbies, different classes, etc. That's social circle. Then there's also Instagram. Then there's also Instagram as a strategy, which people do this like social event strategy where you literally create ads and get and DM and meet people and follow them and build this sort of social network on your Instagram, where now if you host an event, you have all these people to invite to the event, or you literally create an ad for your event and invite people in through the ad. And that's how you can connect with more people and especially more women. And then, of course, there's dating apps. Whatever dating app you want to use, and depending on what city you're in, dating apps could be really effective or super ineffective. Just depends on where you are. Now, the other key piece you need to know that kind of brings all this together is your personal standards. And what I mean by that is no strategy in a city. If you live in, I'll go back to the same example. If you go to Hot Springs, Arkansas, or Miami, if your standards are super high and you're looking for a really attractive woman who everyone wants to date, you're looking for a girl that's a 9 or a 10, you're not going to meet a lot of 9s and 10s in Hot Spring, Arkansas. You're going to meet a lot of girls who are 5s, 6s, maybe a 7. That is the bulk of the population there, except for the people that are coming in and out, the tourists. And even then, you're not getting like super high quality tourists. The most attractive people, richest people who can go anywhere are not going to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Let's be honest. So your dating pool, your standards must be lower. And if your standards are lower, then your dating pool actually increases in this area. If your standards are higher, your dating pool decreases. And now your strategy has to align with that. Versus if you're in Miami and you have high standards, you meet a lot of women who probably meet your standard. So any strategy is going to work. Again, it's like an ideal city. There are cities that are super ideal for dating and cities that are not. And then if your standards are too high and you live in a town, a town, I'll give you an example. A town, the most attractive woman in your town is a 10 out of 10 to all the people in that town. But then if you and your woman went to Miami and started seeing the women that exist in Miami, your woman in your mind was a 10, now she goes down to a 6. Now you realize there's all this other opportunity that you didn't have, at least when we're talking about physical attraction, right? When how they look physically. The women in your town of 10,000 people are not going to compare to the women you can meet in Miami, period. And so, if you're in one of these cities, what strategy do you use? How do you know what strategy to use? Well, here's the mistake most men make. For one, most men are horrible at every single strategy. So realize that first. Then address the type of city that you're in. Again, if you're in an LA, New York, Chicago, you're in a city where you have infinite options and your standard doesn't matter because every type of woman lives here, then you can use whatever strategy you want. And to get better at the strategy, what I encourage you to do is set a goal to work on that strategy for 100 days. Work on not just using the strategy, but improving at the strategy. Learn new things about the strategy. Get a coach who can tell you more about that strategy, which if you're interested in getting into cold approach and learning more about approach anxiety and how to actually build attraction with women that you're into, I have a 1-hour free training you can watch, link in the description, where I start breaking down the basics of building attraction. And that is a great way to get the ball rolling. If you're looking for more in-depth one-on-one coaching, I offer that as well. Link in the description to apply, and we can see if working together makes sense. And in that case, I can help you understand in your city what strategy works best for you. Now, go back to an example I brought up, which is Hot Springs, Arkansas. What is going to be the best strategy in Hot Springs, Arkansas? Let's assume that your standard is medium to high. You're willing to date a 7. You're not looking for a 10 out of 10 super baddie model that the world is obsessing over and her OnlyFans would make millions a month. You're just looking for a normal, reasonably attractive girl that you are excited to date, okay? There's probably some girls in Hot Springs, Arkansas that you can meet that will fit that description for you. Okay, how do you meet these women? I think in that case, the best thing you can do is a mix of strategies. A mix of strategies is always going to be good. But in a city where cold approach or like one strategy is not going to be king in that mid-sized city, because the dating pool is still just not that big for the standard that you set. So your best bet is to do dating apps because that could be covering the entire city and do a little bit of cold approach and do a little bit of social circle. So if you meet an attractive girl at work, you should be trying to date this girl if you're interested. You should at least be pursuing what dating her could look like. The main thing you don't want to do is put all your eggs in one basket, right? So then you should also be having a dating app and meeting women through the dating app. You should also be going out to social environments like bars and clubs or the mall or the touristic areas and walking around and doing some cold approaching. And if you're mixing those 5, and you're not doing all 5 every single day, but you're just mixing them in throughout the months of 100 days, you're likely to meet somebody. Or you go all in on one strategy, but in this type of city, going all in on cold approach when there's only so many girls who meet your standard of being a 7, you're not likely to meet that many that frequently. So it's likely that there's going to be days throughout the week where you go out to cold approach and you meet nobody and you feel discouraged. So that's not fair. That's why I encourage you to, in this type of city, in this environment, to have a mix of strategies. And then again, if you're living in the dream cities, we'll call them, Miami, New York, your life is easy. I'm not even talking to you because you can do any strategy, bro. All strategies work for you. All strategies work in your city. Pick a strategy, lock it for 100 days. You're going to go on dates. You're going to meet women. Get a coach if you need some help. But if you're in a city like Memphis, which is my hometown, in Memphis, cold approach, there's 800,000 people that live in Memphis. So you would assume, okay, hey, as long as you got a standard where you're meeting women that you think are attractive in Memphis, it's a good place to cold approach. But you would be wrong. And the reason is it's a dangerous city. In most of the areas, there's a lot of hood mixed in. So it's a city where people don't walk around. People don't go walking around in Memphis because it's not safe. People get robbed constantly in Memphis. So even if you go to the downtown area and you drive around, you're not going to see that many people walking around, even in the most touristic areas. Beale Street is the best area, and there is high security for a reason. People get shot at Beale Street. People get robbed at Beale Street. This is the only place where you'll see a dense population, but it's a pretty small street, and it attracts all people, meaning most of them are super low standard. You would have to have a super low standard to want to date most of the people that you see on Beale Street. And that is just it's not just about the city having a high population. Like 800,000 is not a small population. It's not a town, right? But it's also the quality of that population. If you go to Nashville, the population's not even that much bigger. I think it's 1.2 million, maybe 2 million. I might be mistaken. I think it's a little bit over 1 million, which is not that much bigger than Memphis. And yet there's so many women. It is a bachelorette central. So you can literally like go down the street and there's just droves of women. And I'm not saying they're all super high standard. I'm not saying they're all super attractive, but the pool is bigger because of the type of city that you're in. So in Memphis, in a city where people aren't walking around, people aren't very social, people don't meet each other in the street, what dating strategies should you use? Number one is dating apps. Dating apps are going to be more effective in a city like this where people are staying inside or where people don't go out that much, but there's a lot of people. The standards are there. The options are there. You just have to find a way to get to them, which dating apps covers the entire city all the time, no? Or social circle. Now, I don't think setting up events is a great idea in a city where you can draw dangerous people. You can draw a crowd of people who are just going to come to rob you or cause problems. But you can go to classes. You can go to the gym. And I meet a lot of attractive people in the gym. I meet a lot of attractive people in classes. I meet a lot of people who, if I work a certain job, I always meet someone attractive at the job. So you have to keep those places open and keep an open mind when you're in those environments, because that's an opportunity to meet people, assuming you have a standard that is allowing you enough wiggle room to date within the constriction of your city. If you lived in Miami and then you moved to Memphis, you would think there's no women here. And that's because your standard is so high, because you're used to such attractive women that you don't see that level of woman here. So you're not likely to feel like there's a big pool, but there really is a big pool of women. They're just not all going to check the boxes you want them to if you're used to a different caliber of woman. Really, the standards you have and the city you're in, this makes up the reality of what you're capable of doing in dating. So if you're meeting coaches who are selling you this idea that you've got to use dating apps, this is bullshit. You got to use dating apps. You got to use cold approach. You got to use this. That's bullshit. Anyone that is trying to put you in one lane does not have the experience of approaching or dating in enough cities to know that it just depends on where you live, okay? But they can't understate the value of going out and meeting people and overcoming approach anxiety, even if that doesn't mean meeting your dream 10 out of 10 girl on the street at the city center. If you're going to the city center and interacting with strangers, you're going to develop skills that build your confidence that are going to reflect in all areas of your dating. And that's why that's specifically what I help men with. So if you're interested in that, click the link down below to apply for one-on-one coaching. Otherwise, guys, the standards in the city that you live in create the results of your reality and what you're able to do. And sometimes, if you're in a town of 10,000 people, what strategy do you use? I mean, the best strategy sometimes is to move. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I said, the most attractive girl in your town, who's a 10 in your town, is a 6 when you go to Miami. And if that is your situation and you want to date a higher standard of woman, you probably have to move to a different location. That is your reality. You either drop your standards or you move. But if you're in a town and you're not meeting a lot of people, I wonder how much going out you're actually doing. And if that's not working, then try using dating apps, because that just gives you a better idea of the pond that you're in. If you go on dating apps and every girl you see is not attracting you or not meeting the standard that you're at, then you probably need to move to a different city. And that may be your best strategy. Then when you're in that city, you have an opportunity to flex those social muscles, meet lots of beautiful women, and have fun with this dating thing where for some people, dating could feel like an absolute chore. And I think it comes back to the concepts I'm speaking on in this video. So guys, that's really all for this video. That's all I wanted to get out to you. Use what strategy is going to work in your city. Learn more about that specific strategy. Lock in on it for 100 days and see the results that come out of that commitment to learn, to work on it every day, to grow, and to be realistic with the environment that you're in. And if things aren't working, switch up your strategy or switch up your city or drop your standards. Those are your options. But the idea that I hear all the time is to just drop your standards. And I hate that idea because the reality is it just depends. But in the modern dating world, there's so many ways to meet people now that you have a lot of options. Even if you live in a non-ideal city, there's probably another option by just switching up your strategy. Anyway, guys, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.